First, we'll just start off with why you decided to run for Pima County Sheriff.
Well, I decided to run for sheriff because after my 19-year career, I've just been able to observe some troubling voids in leadership that I felt like I could fill in a better manner than what they're being filled right now. All those voids are touching the community, they're touching our department, and they're also touching the people that are involved with the criminal justice system. So I wanted to do better. I wanted to come out and make a difference in my community.
Can you speak a little more specifically about those voids you talk about?
Absolutely, for sure. I feel like leadership is such an important aspect for obviously leading a department, but we don't really focus on it enough, I don't think. We look at policy and we look at what people are, how things are going, but what really impacts the community is morale, the culture, the philosophy of the department. And when you don't have leadership, when you have leadership that is focused more on power and ego and more fear-based leading, I want to make a difference. I want to put in a servant-based leadership. I want to put in a people-first leadership, and I believe that will make a great impact to our community.
So now just tell me a little bit more about your background and experience and how that will translate into this role.
Okay, so I'll have 19 years as a deputy in October, and I will have 20 years on the department in December. I started off as a booker in the jail on midnights. I was pregnant with my second son. All of my children, I have 3, I've raised while being a deputy in this department. It's been a great career. I've had a very blessed career. I've been able to do specialty patrol assignments. I moved to sergeant. I was a patrol sergeant. I worked at internal affairs, and I've worked a lot at our academy. So I've been able to be part of training previously a majority of our department. And I think that with that, my education, my command college experience, that I have the ability to translate that into up-to-date leadership principles that can be effective for the generations that we're leading right now. We have new generations coming through our department. You know, we have Gen Z and we have the millennials are taking over, right? And so we have to be able to lead them effectively and not just old school mentality.
The department just had 39 deputies graduate. And the department says they're now almost fully staffed. But with years of staffing shortage, what is your plan to make sure the staffing numbers are where they need to be? And also, how do you retain those deputies?
I think retention is the biggest thing we really need to talk about. We have seen an increase in our recruitment, that we've been able to start recruiting a little bit better than we had in the past, like especially during COVID. It's increased tremendously. What I want to do is I want to go back and raise those standards for entrance. They've been lowered drastically in order to get those numbers, but I think that's a robbing Peter to pay Paul kind of thing. I think we're going to see the results of that eventually. And I think it's important to raise the standards, increase the level of training that our department members are getting, and then really focus on career development in the jail, on the streets, in our dispatch center, in our communications center. And by doing that, you create opportunity. Right? And you create these opportunities for people, and then they want to stay. When you have a culture of fear, when you have a culture of the good old boy system, we're losing our good deputies. What we're losing isn't our brand new guys and girls. We're losing our deputies that have been on for 5 to 15 years, right? So that's our institutional knowledge that we need. That's affecting Pima County. By not having that experience on the streets. So what we're getting is, we've gotten our staffing up, but now we have babies training babies.
How would you address the current conditions at the Pima County Jail? I know that's a really highly talked about issue right now.
So having been assigned there since announcing my candidacy, I have really dug in to try to figure out what's going to work, what's not going to work. Staffing is the issue at the bottom line issue. It really is. And yes, we have increased our staffing, but this administration caused a staffing crisis that we've never seen in Pima County history, which was a reason for all of the failings at the jail, for sure. So the staffing is the issue, and the employee development. This administration also went in and cut the training required for our corrections officers, and I believe they're worth more than that. I believe they're worth more time in spending to train them to make sure that they're doing the job the correct way and they understand the liability of what they're doing. And so I find that I want to increase the training for corrections first and foremost, and by staffing the jail. So when you don't have staffing, you aren't letting your inmates have day room. So day room means they don't get to come out. They don't get to bathe, they don't get to exercise, they don't get to get hot water for their commissary, and that lowers their mental health, it lowers their physical health, and we have to make sure they are there as a punishment, not as a torture. Right? So we need to make sure that we are taking care of the people inside the Pima County Adult Detention Center to the best of our ability, so that they leave us wanting to be better, wanting to not commit crimes again. We also do that by partnering with our community agencies and having these wraparound services. We have to be part of getting them housing, part of getting them jobs. We can't just let other agencies do it. I think that's reimagining law enforcement altogether. And additionally, I think by partnering with these agencies, we can make a difference in our community, because we're never going to arrest or incarcerate our way through a problem.
So is it fair to say you are not in support of a new jail?
No, I wouldn't say that. I am fully prepared to go with whatever the recommendation is. They have they're doing a new study. It's coming up next month, and the people that are coming in are coming to basically evaluate our processes and how we do things to see what a new jail would look like. I feel like structural engineers need to have a little bit more say. Is this jail going to last? What can we do with this jail? But the Board of Supervisors, the funding, all that has to happen before the sheriff has anything to do with it to begin with. Do we need a new jail? We probably do.
And what would you say is the largest issue, the thing at the top of your agenda right now?
So the thing at the top of my agenda right now, the primary mission of the Sheriff's Department is public safety. Okay? It's public safety, bottom line. So everything wraps around that public safety mission that we have. That means the budget. So all of those ancillary units that we're allocating resources to instead of patrol is hurting our community. That we talk about community policing. We cannot do community policing if we don't have the staffing on the streets. Token units aren't going to solve the problem. Right? One unit that's in charge of the entire county isn't going to be able to make an impact that a unit in a district would be able to make. So a separated unit that is focused on quality of life issues for businesses and for residents. And then we boost our patrol staffing so that we're not burning our deputies out. We're not making them have to worry about staffing before they worry about going to calls. It's a crisis right now. This administration has cut staffing by 1/3 from what it was in 2021 when the transition document was given to them from Sheriff Napier. And because of that, we aren't focused on our primary mission. Do I agree that we have to have some of these ancillary units? 100%. But what I would do first and foremost is focus only on our primary mission and then work on those units.
And I know you've touched on it a little bit, but what's your plan for addressing the crime here in Pima County?
Absolutely. So first of all, it's going to be training, right? We have to train our deputies. We have to create a culture of people wanting to community police. We have to create a culture of people wanting to work with outside agencies in order to solve the problem. Not, like I said, we cannot arrest our way through this problem. So when we have focused patrols, which is our directed patrol units that we used to have in the district, you put the staffing back in patrol, you give the directed patrol units a new mission, which is quality of life for businesses and residents, and you are focused on the fentanyl issue. You are focused on the opioid crisis. You are focused on the unhoused and helping them get resources, right? We train them how to get resources, and then we also require them to follow the law.
And tell me a little bit about your endorsements. I know one of them being from the largest deputy union here, and kind of what that means to you.
That means a lot. I just also got the endorsement of the Fraternal Order of Police. So that is an endorsement that hasn't been given in, I don't know the exact time frame, but it's been a few elections. So I'm very proud of that because those are my peers. Those are the people that have worked for me. Those are the people I've worked with. Those are side by side. And I think that means a lot. That means the most to me, is having the endorsement of my peers, because they know who I am. I've been with them for almost 20 years, and they understand how I work. I have proven leadership. I've proved the way I treat people. I proved the way I follow through. I proved my competency. They wouldn't give me this endorsement if I was just nice. They're giving me the endorsement because they're trying to pick their boss, and that would be me. So I think that's the most important. I also have ASCOPS, which is a state organization, Arizona state organization. So I have their endorsement. I have former Sheriff Mark Napier. I have Tom Murphy, Mayor Tom Murphy down in Sarita. Who else do I have?
Terry Frederick, one of your opponents in the primary.
I have two opponents actually in the primary who've endorsed me. So the Democrat challenger, Sandy Rosenthal, and then my primary opponent, Terry Frederick, has come out and endorsed me.
Sharon Bronson.
Sharon Bronson came out and endorsed me as well, former Board of Supervisors Sharon Bronson, and she wrote an op-ed for the Green Valley newspaper. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about a lot of my endorsements. But again, my peers are probably the thing I'm most proud of.
And what does it mean to you knowing that you could potentially be the first female sheriff in the county?
I have to caution this because I get a lot of critique on this. I do not believe it's a credential, right? But it's so exciting to be part of history, to potentially be part of history. Pima County could be electing the very first female in the whole state of Arizona at the position of sheriff, and I think that means a lot for women. You know, we have a scandal right now going on, reference a woman, and how we've treated her, and I think Pima County showing, no, we're going to stand up for women, we're going to vote a woman in, and you know, women will feel safe to come and work for our department now.
I know you just touched on it a little bit. Would you mind speaking about the Ricky Garcia case and the handling of that, and how you would have handled that had you been sheriff?
So the biggest issue, and I won't talk about the criminal issue, okay? The biggest issue is the fact that, and I've referenced it before, it's the good old boy system. So I just can't even imagine if I was that female who asked for an understanding, for an investigation as to why we didn't investigate command staff who knew what was happening, who had an eyewitness to what was happening, and did nothing. I would feel so isolated as a female. Or as a victim, I would feel so abandoned by my department. And when I say it over and over again, it's the good old boy system. And so because they are part of the club, the sheriff refused to investigate them. And I think that's a tragedy for women in general.
Is there anything else we haven't talked about yet that you really want to highlight and talk about?
Well, the corrections staffing, that I mentioned that a little bit, is that that was a decision made in 2021 to terminate corrections officers for not getting the vaccine. I believe that was a lack of strategic thinking. Only that group of people got targeted in that staffing, or in that decision making. So what happened was over 80 other correction officers left in lieu of termination. We lost a quarter of our staffing in one fell swoop, creating 6,000 hours of overtime, a pay period in the jail, burning our officers out, and that's what created the unsafe conditions in the jail. Then you look on the streets. We have seen more shootings of our deputies. Again, unprecedented. And I'm not blaming any one person, but policies can hurt, right? Policies can hurt. And when we focus on one unit that's a token community policing unit, as opposed to putting the meats where it belongs, right? Putting the efforts where they belong, putting the resources, allocating the resources where the community actually needs them, I think that's the most important thing. Safety is not anything to be played with. And by taking all of that staffing off the streets, I think we're making it less safe for our deputies. So right now, you see you see all these people having to work overtime, because you can't take a day off. The staffing's at minimal. Now they've changed the word for minimum just to make it sound better. Optimum, I think, is the new word. It's still unsafe staffing levels on the streets. I have a son who has had an addiction problem, and we have put him through. I've had him arrested, I've had him put into mental institutions, I've had him put in different rehabs. I think that gives me a better understanding of what we're dealing with people, our unhoused crisis, our opioid crisis, because I've dealt with it personally. I know that you can love your way through a situation like that, but still hold boundaries and still hold people accountable. I'm very happy to say that yesterday he celebrated 16 or 17 months, I can't remember, of sobriety. So I'm very proud of him for doing that. I couldn't be more proud. But I come with a different background. I also came from poverty as a child. So I mean, we come with our background, and we're able to understand people better when we do that. When we, I have children that I've raised in this community, so I understand things a little bit differently than the incumbent.